Welcome back, researchers, to the Arcanic Archives. I am, of course, the Archivist, and today we have a bit of a brew to showcase for you. Now, Tempo Kano is a bit of a misnomer because with Kano you're playing the tempo game a lot of the time anyways, so we could call this Waning Moon Kano, perhaps? Anyways, yeah, here we are. So the genesis of this deck is that I wanted to make Waning Moon good for Kano, outside of the, arcane matchups where you're playing Alluvion, Constellus. So in thinking about how to do that, I was reminded of my early days playing Iyslander and how Iyslander was able to make good use of Absorbent Aether. So that got me thinking, what if there's a world where we can play Waning Moon, Absorbent Aether, get some good bamboozle value with the Wizard Defense reaction that no one expects. And so this is the resultant deck from all those thoughts. So this list is playing, I think, exclusively 0 and 1 cost cards. We have no Emeritus Scolding, no Sonic Boom, and that's because we're spending a lot of our resource Waning Mooning a lot of the time. And also we play a lot more on the opponent's turn. Typically with Kano, you only play on the opponent's turn when you're trying to combo or when you absolutely have to, but because it's so expensive using his ability. But in this deck, we get a lot of our value through playing on the opponent's turn. So essentially what we want is to have Absorbent Aether in Arsenal, which you might have never seen this card before because it's very strange to play defense reactions in the Wizard deck, but this is a 1-for-4 block that gives you a +2 arcane damage on something. So you're spending 1 resource for kind of 6 points of value, which is a good rate, although it can be hard to capitalize on this. So to capitalize on this, what we want to do is have Absorbent Aether in Arsenal. The opponent attacks. We, maybe we block, maybe we just pass blocks, and then we react with Absorbent Aether, pitching a blue, so we have 2 floating. And then we activate Kano, pitching another blue. And what we want to hit is probably a 0 or 1 cost damage spell. We're playing Red Prognosticate, which doesn't see a whole lot of mileage, but if you Kano this off the top of the deck, this can deal 5 damage with Absorbent Aether, which is really good. We also have Mind Warp. Mind Warp is a really interesting card. It has the most devastating surge effect, and it essentially forces your opponent to interact with it, since, they either take a bunch of damage and lose a card out of their hand and get their whole hand wrecked, or they pitch to it and then you got a card from them, which is fine. It's mostly here because it's a 0 cost, but hey, whatever. This might be the deck to make it good. We also have some Cindering Foresights. Since we're playing on the opponent's turn a lot of the time, this isn't a bad card to have in Arsenal either, since you can just play it out, lets you see what's on top of your deck for if you're trying to Kano for a 0 cost, and then, again, the damage buff can be pretty nice. As far as other cards we're playing, nothing off the beaten path. For Kano, we have Reverberates, just because, Red Reverberate with a Crucible buff into... Oh, we're not playing Crucible, never mind. Red Reverberate into, Prognosticate is just fine. Or, into Mind Warp, again, the 0 cost thing. We still do have Lesson in Lava, Blazing Aether, so we can set up some combo-y plays for big damage. Chain Lightning really shines in this list, although as you'll see in some videos, I occasionally forget that this says Wizard non-attack and not just Wizard card, which is a little unfortunate because if you play Absorbent Aether and then Kano a Chain Lightning off your deck, you need to play something else to make the Chain Lightning deal damage, since Absorbent Aether is not a non-attack. Also interesting, Lesson in Lava says Wizard card, not Wizard non-attack, so you can actually tutor for Absorbent Aether if you want to set that up. It's important to keep in mind whenever you play non-attacks with Kano that you could brick with a Kano activation. Like if you activate Kano and Absorbent Aether's on top of your deck, it is not a non-attack card, so you can't do anything with it. You can't even banish it just to get it out of the way. It's stuck there. So again, Cindering Foresight for some opting. I also put Talismanic Lens down here in the sideboard. Not sure we're ever going to end up using it, but sometimes the unconditional opt is good, but also every time I don't have Ragamuffins, I draw a hand that, has a Ragamuffins combo to, set up a Blazing Aether or something, and it's like, should probably just play Ragamuffins. Anyways, pretty straightforward otherwise. We have 20 blues. Kano's eating his vegetables. We're being responsible. Sideboard, we have 2 Nourishing Emptiness, mostly as poppers, 2 Warmongers, just because it can be good. Alluvian Constellus, again for the more arcane-focused matchups, and we want to aggressively play Alluvion Constellus, meaning that if we're against anybody who can deal arcane, we're going to bring this in just to get the value with our Waning Moon, since that is our only weapon. Tunic for the longer matchups, and that about does it for this wacky Waning Moon Tempo Kano deck. Is this strictly better than the more straight-ahead combo Kano builds? Probably not, but is this fun? And does this let you see new lines and cool interactions that you wouldn't get to see otherwise? Absolutely. So let's get ahead to some videos and show you some of this deck in action. And I'll see you back in a little while for the wrap-up. So here we are with my wacky Tempo Kano deck in Blitz. We're up against Fi, who put us first, which is somewhat questionable. Typically, I don't know if I've ever seen Fi not want to go first just so they can force damage. None of our sideboarding cards are relevant. Spellfire Cloak we definitely want. Still a toss-up between these two. I think we'll just run with Ragamuffins this game. Curious to see how this goes. I haven't played a whole lot of matchups with this deck, but of those that I've played, I have more wins than losses, which is really funny. So this deck isn't about, like, big splashy combos with Emeritus Scolding into Blazing Ether. It's more about playing a slightly longer game, trying to get some people with Absorbent Ether, which I'm just trying to make it work. It's probably not worth it for Kano a lot of the time, but we're not here. Well, hopefully we're here for success. So I think right now I'm just going to activate Kano. I should be clear, we do want to find success with this deck, and I have on a few occasions, but... Okay, Cindering Foresight here. It's not excellent, but we'll try it. Kano, as a lot of you probably know, is kind of solved as far as the optimal strategies for him, especially in Classic Constructed, where you're doing a lot of Wildfire stuff. Blue Ether Dart. I mean, we don't not want this. I guess we'll keep it for next turn. So now we can prognosticate for 4 and Waning Moon. We only have 1 Arcane Barrier, so that's still pretty good. Anyways, sorry, I keep getting off track. Yeah, Kano has fewer builds than a lot of other heroes just because he's a more linear combo-focused deck. So I wanted to try something different. And I started by trying to force Waning Moon just because it's so much fun. Icelander was the first deck that I really learned how to play when I was getting into the game, so I have very fond memories of Waning Moon, and it's so much fun to use it in the Wizard Mirror matches, but I thought, why not try it? Have a little bit of fire-ice duality going on. So, yeah, I built this deck sort of around that. And we'll just Waning Moon here, I guess. And then also decided to try to make cards like Absorbent Ether work, and to that end, we have a lot more cheap spells, 0 and 1 cost stuff that you don't typically see for Kano. But synergizes very nicely with things like Absorbent Ether. So we've dealt 4 damage on what is kind of turn 0, which is pretty good. They're running just 1 Arcane Barrier. So now we can pass, and Absorbent Ether is one of the best cards to put in Arsenal. So off of 1 blue, we can Absorbent Ether and Waning Moon, and then use a second blue to Kano a cheap spell off our deck to make all that happen. So that's sort of the game plan for this deck. We do have Lesson in Lava, Blazing Ether, Kano staples like that. But this deck has smaller bursts of damage spread out across more sources, like Waning Moon. Alright, so they lead off with Brand with Cinderclaw for 3. Go again. I think we probably just take this, since we actually have the ability to block for 4 for once. Maybe we'll save that for the second chain link. Or the third. Alright, do they cash in their vest? They are thinking. They do. Interesting. Maybe they'll just Emberblade for 3. Ooh, no, Art of War mid-turn. That's interesting. I wonder what the incentive to doing that is. They were going to not do it if they didn't get the hit with the attack. Alright, so they do the expected buff and draw modes of this. Can't really do anything right now, so we will let it resolve. So this might turn a lot of their 3 powers into 4 powers, and then we can cover it all up with an absorb in ether. So they inflame, which will be for 2, and also get a Phoenix Flame, which could also be for 2. Do we block this? I'm going to say no. See, times like this are where I would rather have the Talismanic Lens on, but so frequently I miss having Ragamuffins whenever I don't wear it, because it's like, you know, you don't draw Blazing Aether until late in the game when you don't have the Ragamuffins hat, and you can't do any fun tricks with it. But Talismanic Lens Unconditional up 2 is useful in its own way. I've played mostly with Talismanic Lens to this point, so we'll see if having Ragamuffins does anything. Alright, so now they do the Phoenix Flame, which will be for 3. I think we'll do our Absorbent Ether here. This deck also plays more on the opponent's turn, because typically with Kano you want to... We'll do this. You want to chip in damage on your turn before trying to combo on their turn, since it's so expensive to do so. But given that we're trying to do stuff with Absorbent Ether and Waning Moon, it makes more sense to play on the opponent's turn a lot of the time. Red Ether Flare is also an overperformer in this deck. It is very, very good with a lot of our cheap cards like, you know, Red Prognosticate. Okay. So we might leak some damage here, but we did shut off the ability for them to Mask of Momentum. Alright, now I would like to activate Kano. I'd love to be able to hold on to this energy potion and just play it out on our turn, but let's see what we find. Oh, well, another energy potion. That's not the worst, but, well, it does turn on Waning Moon. Yeah, it is non-attack. It does turn on Waning Moon, but now I'm afraid we're not going to be able to take advantage of our... Man, what's the name of the card? Absorbent Ether buff. Let's actually just Kano again. I'd love to be able to flare into something. But, like, if we crack Ragamuffin here, then... Like, we could do flare for 5, but then we won't have anything to do, really. Let's see what we find. Ooh, a Tome of Aetherwind. Probably just use this to draw, right? Yeah, we'll just use this to draw. So we get Blazing and a Reverberate. Might not be a bad turn to try to get a little mini combo off here. We might end up wanting to break our Striders for the purposes of playing Flare. So if we would play Flare now, then we can Moon and Blazing Ether. I mean, it's a little ballsy, but we could try it. So this will deal 5. They could prevent 1. So this deals 4. And then Blazing would deal 4 plus 4. So that's 12. Well, actually, if we stick the Waning Moon in the middle, that would be lethal, actually. So we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 resources, and we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and we can sort of do it. Yeah, I think we'll try it. So this is the part where we break Stormstriders. Maybe we can even Metacarpus the Flare, but we might not need to. Okay, so we break the Striders. Let's... Oh, we can activate the Moon now. We need to get down to Ragamuffin range. Maybe I'm going to take back what I said earlier about Talismanic Lens. Alright, so here's Moon for 3. Did they give us their last card? They might, since we broke the Striders. They might be afraid of it. Well, they can only AB 1 anyhow. Oh, they had a blue, so they'll be able to prevent a little bit each time. So we have 2, 3, 4, 5 resource. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can afford to Metacarpus. We're going to do this just to have it. Then we can flare. With Metacarpus. Just dealing 6 from Metacarpus and Absorbent Ether a while ago. So they'll be taking 5 from the flare. They take all 6. They activate Phi. So we can just do everything in response to that. So now we can spell fire. We can rags. Another flare. We don't need it. Put blazing on top. Then we can Kano. Banish blazing. Play it with Metacarpus. To deal 15. Okay, so these are the funny little things that this deck can do. It is a strange build, but this is not the first time where I'm like, oh, let's, block with Absorbent Ether, activate Kano, and then later in that turn just win the game because we sort of rolled into a combo involving Aether Flare and Blazing Ether. So that is about as good a showcase for this wacky build as I could have hoped for. Let's see what else we can find. Oh, we can't use Illuvion. Jeez. Do we try Tunic? Maybe. None of these cards really do anything. Warmongers doesn't really do anything. Maybe if they put us first, we'll do Tunic. Or they do put us first. All right, we will roll with the Tunic then. This one could be tricky as well, since they have Arcane Barrier 3 and can easily cover up some of our smaller bursts of damage. Alright, so we have Blazing Ether and Absorbent Ether turn 1. They have Arcane Barrier 4, that is big yikes. Especially since we can't really Crucible anything. We don't really want Blazing Ether this early, so I might pitch that strategically away. Banish Ether Dart. We'll say no. And I'll pass. Put this in Arsenal. Deny them the chance for any hand filtering. I know they do this. I mean, very conveniently, we can cover it entirely with Absorbent Ether. Because we want to probably... This is a little awkward because we'd love to play out the Energy Potion. So let's pass. See if they pummel it or something. They don't. We will play this. And let's Kano. Like this. Tome of Aetherwind. Let's draw. Foresight. It's not very good right now. Let's keep the chain going, I guess. So at least let us fish for like the other red prognosticate. Or just an energy potion. So we lose out on our bonus damage, but yeah. Well, we would have had to. Oh, I don't know what was correct there. Got a casual 6-card pitch stack going on. This actually might be a game where we get to the pitch stack, which doesn't happen nearly that often in Blitz. So we'll do this. Not sure if that's good. Second Absorbent Ether in Arsenal. All right, now we got a bunch of blues to work with. We'll see how conservatively they play. If they just like Titan's Fist again, or if they actually try to play out a bigger attack. Oh no! Is this a oops all life gain Guardian list? I've seen people do this with Yoji. This is like, it's like playing mono red burn and magic, and if the opponent plays like more than 2 life gain cards, you basically just concede. Let's flash out this Foresight. Ether Flare. Full bottom. Kano into Sap, sure. Here's 2. Doesn't matter. Okay, so you have a bunch of defense reactions that aren't going to do anything. We'll just let this resolve. We will take this opportunity to Waning Moon. So they just pitch 4. It's Kano. They have not taken any damage. We will not banish. This actually might be very hard for us because we need like another one of those Ether Flare Go Tall combos. Love to be able to set up all 3 potions eventually, although we've already pitched away 1 energy potion. Probably suboptimal play on my part. But seeing Healing Bomb makes me feel nervous. And Sigil of Solace, of course. This matchup might be unwinnable outside of a big pitch stack combo that I'm not smart enough to set up. I've seen 1 Healing Bomb, 1 Sigil. So now they just pass. So will we. Here we can Kano for reverb. It's pretty good. They'll probably just pitch away and cover it up, but on the off chance they don't, we can sneak in some damage. They pitch 2 red Fate Foreseens. Nice. Oh man. Oops all defense reactions and life gain. It's not very good for us. So now we can just prognosticate. Maybe we'll get in some damage with Waning Moon. The surge effects also get very good with Absorbent Ether. That was part of our rationale. Ooh, they take some damage. They took 1 damage. No reason not to Moon here. So what we've dealt 3. So we could force Blazing Aether to deal another 3, but that's just not good. All right, hopefully we draw a bunch of stuff that we can do on the end of their turn, since they don't have anything to do. Might be the case. Let's take a look. That is excellent. So Let me think for a moment. So if we want to Chain Lightning, Flare, Blazing Ether, that's 1, 2, 3. You can even cash this in for Waning Moon. I mean, we might as well. Like, when are we going to get an opportunity like this? So we need to use Striders on Flare. Breaking our Striders this early is a little questionable, but I honestly think it's worth it in this silly matchup. Alright, so now we Striders. Then we Flare. Shame we can't get the bonus here. So they activate their Tunic, so let's just go off, or continue to go off in response. So now let's just Moon for 3. Then we'll E-Pot. One of these is probably going to go to waste, because we don't want to Metacarpus right now. Alright, so this is, they took 6. Let's see. So we dealt 3 with Flare, 3 with Moon, 6 from Chain Lightning, so that's 12. Oh, so this is enough. Let's put the Metacarpus on it. Holy moly. This deck is insane. Man, as soon as I saw the life gain cards, I was taken back to the very first armory at which I played Kano. Do we want to enable chat? Let's see if we get any Kano hate mail. I feel the fires of my blazing ether with salty tears. Yeah, the very first armory at which I played Kano and Blitz, I encountered the Yoji life gain meme deck that was brought in Arcane 5, or AB 5, and then did the Titan. Yeah, he had Titan's Fist, Arcane Lantern, and then the 4. Oh man. Yeah. Mild Kano hate mail. Go first, mostly because we don't want them to. Warmongers is very good. So we'll take out, I guess, one of these Ether Darts. And maybe both Ether Darts. We probably want Spellfire Cloak, because this could go very fast. Alright, so AB2, Azalea. This is, we would love like an extra blue, honestly, but given that, Well, since I only have AB2, we can do Reverberate, Reverberate, Aether Quickening, which is just delicious. Let's do that. Forget to turn off our Metacarpus. Okay. So outside of like an Oasis or some other like straight up damage prevention thing, this will work, which is very funny. We don't need an extra blue. So now we do Reverberate. This is a true reverberation. And then Aether Quickening. Okay, they had a 4 red hand, which was kind of funny. But now we're actually winning after that. If you go by life totals, that's awesome. And then we found some more of those blues. We'll see how scary an arrow they can present. Okay. Working on my second cup of coffee this morning. So we have a Lace with Blood Rot, then a yellow Bolt and Shot. So this will be for 6, go again, reload if it hits. We're probably fine to block this, and then play Deja Vu, Arsenal Cindering Foresight on our turn. Outside of, if they have like a Rain Razors or something, that feels bad, but we'll try to save some damage here. Okay, no Rain Razors, that's good. Now they Bullseye Bracers for a reload, which is very significant because now they're on AB1. But that also means they can do Bolt and Shot here now for 5. Go again, reload if it hits. If they have another 0-cost arrow in hand, that's, well, it could be a 1-cost arrow too, but we straight up couldn't block this even if we wanted to. So we'll just pass. So now I do Cross Wrap to Ops. Okay, so I had triple Bolt and Shot. That's kind of interesting. One of each color? Yep. Alright, so we will just take this, because it's just a naked 2. We have nothing to do at the end of their turn. We'll play out our Deja Vu. Do they actually have an instant? Would you like to quiver in response? They don't. All right, so now we pass. Cindering Foresight is convenient, if nothing else, because we can just play it out of Arsenal. Okay, so the Codex of Frailty. Oh, Lace with Inertia. Okay, this isn't as terrifying as it is when I'm playing Kano in CC, where this is like, my precious combo pieces, no. Do we try to do a trick where we could activate Kano with Warmongers and then Deja Vu it to the top of the deck and then play it? Which could prevent them from doing any more buffs. We have the red Aether Flare, so there is an argument for just like keeping Aether Flare a blue and another thing, but then we're not going to have a whole lot to block with. We will let this resolve. Okay, so there... I mean, hindsight is 20/20, of course, but seeing the double buff when we could have done something about it hurts a little bit. But they also could have just as easily had, you know, Lace with Inertia and 3 more arrows. Oh, man. We're paying for that, aren't we? We're going to play Cindering Foresight to opt. Ooh. Now this is interesting. There are an insane amount of shenanigans that we could do with chain lightnings and ether flares, and they're going to be completely shields down because we're expecting a zero-cost arrow. So, let's think. We can... And Chain Lightning's online since we played Cindering Foresight. So we can have Chain Lightning let us get this Ether Flare. So we're not going to... The main limiting factor now is our resource. So we can do Chain Lightning, play the Ether Flare from hand, then do the lesson, and then tutor for Blazing and kill them. But that would take 1, 2, 3, 4... 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 resource. And we have 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, we have 10. So that could almost work, but just barely not. But can we... If we could turn this Ether Flare... Well, if we could turn this into a blue with Ragamuffins, we could actually do that. But also... Do we Storm Striders to play Mind Warp? So this is... Oh, shit. Okay. So we gotta do something now. We're gonna bottom this. Top, and then top the Chain Lightning. So we can do Chain Lightning, Flare, Flare, Mind Warp, something like that. We'll let them play out whatever they have. Okay, so it's a Codex of Frailty to buy back an arrow. So now it's go time because they are completely shields down. So we have Chain Lightning on top of our deck. We must... We can also use a Deja Vu trick to get Mind Warp on top of our deck. So we must Kano to get the Chain Lightning. Then we can have 1 for Chain Lightning, 1 for Flare, and then we have another Flare on top of our deck. So we're gonna have to get that before we put Mind Warp on top of our deck, if that's the line we take. So we can use this to Kano to have a Flare, and then we have 3, 4 resource available, which would be 1 for the Chain Lightning, 1 for the Flare that's on top of our deck. This would deal 4, Flare would deal 3, Mind Warp would deal 5. 4 plus 3 is 7 plus 5 is 12. That's not quite enough. So can we do something with that? All right, so we are going to Kano. This might just backfire since we don't have a whole lot of resource. So the Aether Flare we knew about. I mean, will Chain Lightning Flare Flare get there? Also at the point when we could take a peek with Ragamuffins. Maybe put back Mind Warp and get a blue. So we have 2, 3... Wait, so Chain Lightning would be 4. Flare is 3. Other Flare is 6. 4 plus 3 is 7 plus 6 is 13. Damn. Okay. So we need to... Okay, we can actually just use Deja Vu to put a blue on top of our deck. We're going to do so. Doesn't matter. So now we can Chain Lightning. This is a real brain breaker, I think. Okay, so we Chain Lightning. We can... So that says you may play your next as though it were an instant. So if we want to play this flare, we need to do it now. So that would be flare for 3, and then flare for 6. So we can Ragamuffins to get a blue. How much does that change the equation? Because then we can Waning Moon, Ether Flare. Well, I don't think Waning Moon is efficient price-wise at this point. Yeah, man. Having an energy potion down would have made this completely possible. So now we're going to... No, I don't think this actually works. We can flare, and we can't even Ragamuffins. Yeah, that was really frustrating. Let me know, anyone, if you see a line where that would have worked. Because we were literally one resource away, I think, from being able to push enough damage. Alright, so we're given the choice against Rhinar. We will absolutely go first so we don't die. I was playing at an armory this week, playing Emperor, which was a ton of fun, and I went 3-1. The loss, was against a Rhinar who killed me turn 0. It does happen. Warmongers isn't awful, but it also doesn't really do much. Yeah, so we'll just run with our usual setup. All right. So they have AB3, Beaten Trackers, Barkbone Strapping. So we have the option to just play Deja Vu, Waning Moon for 2, Arsenal, Absorbent Ether, and then we're holding on to a Mind Warp. This is the one that we want on top of our deck to hit off of Absorbent Ether, or to hit after we Kano with Absorbent Ether. So we will play Potion of Deja Vu. We will activate Waning Moon to filter our hand. That also gives them an opportunity to filter their hand, but we want it enough in this case because we want as many blues as possible when we're trying to do funny things with Absorbent Ether. All right, so they do pitch a Reincarnate. We'll pass Arsenal, Absorbent Ether, and then end up drawing 2 reds. Boo. Still gives us the option to hit like one thing. Okay, so they're Barraging Beatdown. So this is the point, unfortunately, that's going to make it slightly awkward to play this. So at this point, we want to Kano since we only have the 1 blue. Into Reverb. So we can sequence this in a funny way, I believe. So we can pitch this, play reverb now, banish prognosticate, assuming they don't cover... They could just AB3 the reverberate, and then this doesn't work nearly as well. But we can... We'll do the reverberate, pitching this. We'll see if they cover up all of this. Okay, they cover up none of it. So we can banish prognosticate to get extra value off of absorbent ether. We could also, at this point, pitch this to Waning Moon and then break Spellfire Cloak to play absorbent ether. I mean, that does open us up just to getting straight up killed by whatever it is they do, but we're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. We're going to do the Waning Moon. No, Intimidate banishes nothing. But we'll see if they just do, barraging again, and then some big attack and deal most of our life total. Okay, so it's a Savage Feast. They hit Beast Within. Maybe they'll take a bunch of damage. Do they want the Beaten Tracker's action point? They do. Yikes. Rhinar's ability doesn't do anything. See how much life they lose to Beast Within? Oh, they get a Massacre. Oh, heaven. Okay. Just wondering... I forget exactly the order of things on Massacre, but that might kill us. Okay. So... This is Savage Feast for 10 because of Barraging Beatdown. So we probably are dead. But at least we got to do a cool line. If by some miracle we survive, we're not so badly positioned. And we will probably get to opt with this Prognosticate. Massacre gets +2. Right? It's +2 in Intimidate. So assuming there's no other buff, we won't die. And we'll get to present 0 for 5 with this Prognosticate, which always feels great. Okay, so it is Massacre. I couldn't remember exactly what this does. Okay, it does get +2. So we just barely live. That is awesome. So now we will Prognosticate for 5. And we see Ether Dart. And it's the exact same dilemma with the exact same card. Do we keep it to have a blue? Maybe we don't. Because we could crack Deja Vu just to buy back this pitch stack. Which is red flare, blue flare, mind warp. But that probably means we're busting Striders on flare, which makes mind warp less good. So I think we're going to bottom this. And we will take 8, barely not die. There's nothing else I can do. I think we keep the Deja Vu. Because if we draw like Chain Lightning or something else fun, that opens us up to a lot of possibilities. Okay, so we just have to pass. We'll see what we draw. Okay, 2 blues, Blazing Aether, Lesson in Lava. That could get us there. If they lead off with like a Barraging Beatdown again, that's pretty bad. Because we would ideally like them to commit some cards before we try to combo. Okay, so they just lead off with Swing Big. Pitching a yellow. So, Question is, we could block 9, but then we die to pummel. It's not guaranteed that they have pummel, but, you know, it always is an option. But also, if they have, like, 2 blues, they could just blank all of our arcane shenanigans. So we again must think. Would we rather have Lesson in Lava or Blazing Aether in Arsenal? I mean, Lesson in Lava... Wait, we already blocked with the Blazing, didn't we? No, that was another game. Ugh, okay. So... do we block 9 and save one of these? We probably do. I don't really want to gamble on them having a bunch of blues. But is the Blazing Aether that you know better than the damage? Okay, so we're going to keep the Blazing... Oh, please block. So we're going to keep the Blazing Aether. If they have a pummel or something, you know, you got us. Always have to respect the pummel. Okay, no pummel. Get the old Kano Quicken token. Yeah. Now we pass. This does mean that now they have like 5 cards instead of 4 that they had last time, but... oh my god. Okay, okay. Double Chain Lightning while we have Potion of Deja Vu on the battlefield. Oh man. This could do something silly. They do lead off with Blood Rush Bellow. They're thinking about it. Blood Rush is their card in Arsenal. Because if they do that and put an Intimidate on the stack, that's pretty bad. But what could we do? We could Kano twice, hit both Chain Lightnings, and then Striders, play Blazing, and then in response, Chain Lightning, Chain Lightning. So what we have... so we will Kano once, twice, have 1 floating. Banish both Chain Lightnings. So that would allow us to Chain, Waning Moon. Maybe. Alright, so they instead do Alpha Rampage, and they whiff discarding, but they will still get the automatic Intimidate from this. Okay. We could also just Kano with this and a blue, float 2, and then play 1 Chain Lightning as an, and then Storm Striders, play Blazing, respond with the instant Chain Lightning, play the other Chain Lightning. Okay, we're going to do something like that. So let's activate Kano. Hopefully they have like 1 red left or something. So now we Deja Vu in response to our Kano to get this Chain Lightning on top of the deck. So now we Kano into Chain Lightning. No surprises. Alright, so in order to turn all of these on for damage, we can Storm Striders, play Blazing, hold priority, we'll have 1 float. So we can Chain Lightning, Waning Moon. I think that's the best we got. We're missing our Spellfire Cloak resource, but that worked well on the turn we had it earlier. So now we activate Storm Striders. Can we afford 1 Metacarpus activation? We need, so we have 1 resource left over. We need 1, 2, 3, 4. We have exactly 4. So we cannot. afford the Metacarpus. So let's Strider's Resolve. Play Blazing. It's just, if you're not aware, Chain Lightning says if you have played another wizard non-attack, it doesn't care about resolution. So now we can Chain Lightning, which will now deal damage. We let that resolve. Okay, their last card was a blue. That's not great. We can deal 3, 6, 12. So it is fine. Then we chain again. Through the power of Blazing Aether, we still get there. They could break Barkbone and Arcane Barrier some more, actually. So if they get 3 more, then we don't get there. So now we're praying to the Barkbone strapping gods. So because of how this works, we can Waning Moon now. So if they get some resource, they can prevent damage from Blazing Aether, but now we can sneak in the Waning Moon damage on top of this to get a guaranteed 3 damage. So we've already dealt 6, so now it doesn't really matter what they roll. Yeah, Blazing Aether is now for 6. Woof, okay. Yeah, so that game highlights really well just the weird lines that this deck has. So what did we learn today with our wacky Waning Moon Kano deck? And I think firstly and most significantly, we learned that people will run AB4 and Healing Bomb and still complain about losing to Kano. That is just so much fun to me. I think we're going to start a counter for our channel, like the Kano hate mail counter every time somebody complains about arcane damage or anything. Because I'm adamant about the fact that Wizard is actually very well balanced. All the cards that are banned in Blitz should be banned in Blitz, I think. You can maybe make an argument for unbanning Snapback. It would certainly make this deck a lot better. But Aether Wildfire definitely needs to be banned. It's just too explosive. And Kano's probably going to LL himself this skirmish season, potentially with my help, fingers crossed. So, yeah. But what else? We learned some of the pros and the cons of this deck, namely that we can sort of just piece together really funny, surprise you're dead combos off of the reach provided by like Chain Lightning and Aether Flare and whatnot. Typically, I'm always tempted by like the value lines that involve like playing an early Blazing Aether with, or maybe breaking Stormstriders to do something like that while we know it won't kill them, but it'll just deal a good bit of damage. And that's, not optimal, strictly speaking, but sometimes we still get there. We also got max punished for not doing the Warmonger's Deja Vu line in that game with Azalea, where, pitch a Warmongers to activate Kano, break Deja Vu, so the Warmongers in your pitch zone now goes on top of your deck, and then you Kano into it. Because they had exactly 3 buffs and 1 arrow, which was the exact situation I was terrified of. But anyways, I am a big proponent of jank in the games that I play. I love that, Absorbent Aether might cause people to stop and read the card because they've never seen it before, or things like Mind Warp, where you see it a little bit, but not always. And Kano is typically a pretty linear hero because he's just trying to, do a big arcane combo. But this gets there in some different ways and with some different tools, and I will make it my mission to showcase as many brews as I can in the time that we have left with Kano and Blitz. Anyways, so thank you once again for being on this journey with us. If you could like, comment, subscribe, let us know what Kano brew you'd like to see next. That would be great. Given that it's very early days, every comment, every like, every subscription is noticed and matters. And if you leave a comment, you can guarantee that we'll read it and respond. So, yeah, that is it for our Waning Moon Kano today. I have been the Archivist, and we'll see you for your next research appointment.